Since Cecil Knighton was killed on November 14th, 1923, we will begin with him. What do we know for sure? He was found dead in the parking lot of the west half of the Halfway Roadhouse complex. When the police arrived, Charlie was standing near the body with a shotgun in his hands. Cecil's wounds had clearly been inflicted by a shotgun. Cecil's day job had been working as a bartender for Charlie. He had arrived from Alabama in the spring of 1923. He first worked for Charlie in Harrisburg at what was called the Near Bar. On November 10th, he was arrested for violating the prohibition laws, and on November 11th, Judge Abbey issued a stay-away order. At this point, Cecil was given a choice. He could leave Saline County for a year or face a jail sentence and a $500 fine, or he could go to Williamson County. He chose Williamson County. Charlie put him to work at Halfway. Engel gives Cecil's age at 17, but his death certificate, which is now circulating among you, shows that he was born in 1895, which means that he would have been 28 years old. His training was as a mechanic, but he really was a professional gambler. So he worked in a very dangerous environment of a rough and ready mining camp, doing a dangerous job, bartending and gambling, when he was shot. It seems reasonable to me that he got himself crosswise to either his customers or his employers. He may have even been caught cheating. Whatever he had done, the effects were fatal. There was no eyewitness to Cecil's killing, but at the coroner's inquest on the evening of November 15th in the Marion City Hall, several witnesses testified they had heard a pistol shot followed by 2 shotgun blasts out in front of the saloon. Then they called the Marion City policeman Tom Boyd, who arrived shortly after to take charge of the scene. Charlie told the policeman that he had shot Cecil. The ear witnesses testified that Cecil and Charlie had been in the bar shortly before the shooting, and that when Charlie left to cross over to his other establishment, Cecil followed him out after making threats against Charlie. Cecil was known to have been armed. Now that seems open and shut, but not so fast. Where did Charlie come by a shotgun? At just exactly the right moment to defend himself. What's the backstory? One account has it that Charlie and Cecil were in competition over one of Charlie's soiled doves. Another holds that Charlie feared Cecil as a threat to his happy home life, as his young wife, Bee, had taken a shine to Cecil. A third story has Charlie had found Cecil at his home uninvited, and Charlie had struck him in the face, knocking him down. Cecil's honor demanded satisfaction. Or Charlie had nothing to do with Cecil's death. Cecil could have been shot as a result of his line of work, and Charlie took credit for the killing in order to protect the real killer. Charlie was in partnership with several shady characters associated with a number of illegal activities all over Williamson County. 2 of these were Charles Chink Schaefer of Carterville and Ralph Scrambler Hill, who had been involved in a fatal shooting at Halfway in June 1923 and were under indictment for murder, as the man they killed, Ezra Fowler, was not a hoodlum but a miner. At that time, the county didn't much care if hoodlums killed each other, but if it was anybody else, they cared. B. Birger later told this story. She and Charlie had been shopping in St. Louis, and on the way back to Harrisburg, they stopped off at halfway so Charlie could check on business. She said they left halfway very quickly, and he later said, "Somebody killed Cecil." Then he left her at home and went back to halfway. It's possible that Charlie and his partners cooked up the story of his self-defense in order to get the real killer clear of suspicion. Charlie had already killed 2 men. The first was in 1917 when he shot Thomas Crip Yates in the back as Yates tried to ambush 2 Harrisburg policemen who had come to Ledford, in response to a disturbance. Charlie was praised for saving the lives of the officers. In 1918, he killed a man named Oughton, who had been foolish enough to come to a gunfight with only a knife. In both cases, Charlie used the self-defense plea, and it worked, so why not try it again? All of Charlie's ear witnesses at the coroner's inquest were either friends or employees who could be trusted to keep their stories straight. It worked again. Besides, murder trials are expensive, and who knows what kind of information might come out at an open trial about a place such as Halfway. The issue could be settled quickly and quietly at a coroner's inquest. Cecil's body was shipped back to his family in Mobile, and that was that. Writing history is an art, not a science. One uses deductive reasoning, not the scientific inductive method that yields correct final answers. History is messy. New evidence comes to light, old evidence is studied from a different perspective, new conclusions are drawn. It's a lot of guesswork with conclusions drawn from assumptions. The guess, however, must be plausible, not merely possible, because anything is possible. Not all guesses are equal. Some are more equal than others. A guess with the fewest assumptions tied to it generally wins. The killing of William F. Whitey During is another matter altogether. Charlie never claimed to have killed During. The coroner never said he did. They concluded that Whitey was killed by persons unknown. How Charlie got credit or blame for this is a mystery. My guess is that newspaper people, pardon me, Dixie, newspaper people are in the habit of blaming Charlie for a lot of things that went wrong in Southern Illinois. So they just chalked this one up to him as well. As an aside, the Texas thieves, Bonnie and Clyde, were accused of robbing 4 banks in 4 different states on the same day. Charlie was a witness victim. His only role was to be shot himself. Because the shooting took place on a Saturday night in a very public place, there were a number of witnesses. Unfortunately, each with a story unlike those told by the others. We are unsure where at Halfway Amusement Complex the shooting took place. Charlie, when he testified, gave 2 locations. One was on the front porch of the Roadhouse. The other was in the doorway of the whorehouse. We don't know if Whitey was shot deliberately or by accident. Sort of collateral damage. Charlie may well have been the target of an assassination attempt, but we can't be sure. He was nearly killed, after all, as the bullet that hit him clipped a lung and lodged near his heart. It is said that he never fully recovered his health as a result of the wound.